Many civil engineering professionals have a clear goal of becoming a partner or owner in their civil engineering firm. Well, in this episode of the Civil Engineering Podcast, I'm going to be talking with Tramone Smith, who is a junior partner at WGK in Mississippi. And what's interesting about Tramone's journey is he did become a junior partner and he's on his way to a senior partner in his firm, but he never had the goal or intention of becoming a partner. He had a much more powerful goal that he's going to share with us, and a goal that I think is worthy of all civil engineers. Let's jump right in. All right, now I'm excited to welcome our guest onto the podcast today, Tramone Smith. Tramone, welcome to the Civil Engineering Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So, Tramone, I briefly introduced you to our listeners already, but in your own words, can you just tell them a little bit more about, what you do in your job on a daily basis?
Yes. I do quite a bit. Of course, I'm in the management role, I do everything, and we have a small firm. I do everything from designing all the way up to marketing. My days are sometimes design, sometimes I'm marketing, sometimes a little bit of mixture of both. Sometimes I'm training staff. Today I was training staff and designing. So I kind of work a broad spectrum, everything underneath what we do, especially given we're a small firm. Being a small firm, you tend to have to learn everything. So I pretty much work across the spectrum.
That's great. So tell us a little bit about the firm WGK. How big? What kind of services do you do? Where are you located?
Okay. Well, WGK is a mid-sized to small-sized firm, approximately 25 employees. We're located in Clinton, Mississippi. We work a lot with municipalities. We also do commercial work in industries. We focus on everything under the umbrella of civil, environmental, transportation, water resources, water supply, wastewater treatment. We do not do geotech, and we do not do structural. But outside of that, we pretty much the full spectrum underneath civil.
And surveying as well, or?
Yes, and surveying is part of our organization. We have a small surveying department, but it's very useful having them in office and in house. It kind of helps to streamline some of the works.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, I know from my own work as a civil engineer, having that survey department in-house can make all the difference. I mean, first of all, just in terms of getting projects, because sometimes you have, kind of that inside track if you're able to do the surveying. And you're right, the coordination becomes a lot easier between kind of the different departments, which is, I think, beneficial and can give you a definite advantage.
Yes.
So, Tramone, you became a junior partner at your firm in 2018. And I know we talk to a lot of civil engineers, and a lot of them get into their careers and they always have this goal of, I want to become a partner in my firm. And talk to us a little bit about your journey. Was that a goal of yours? Was that something that you wanted to achieve?
I can't say it was necessarily a goal to be a partner. I think all engineers as a whole, I think at some point we have the dream to own our own firm, or that's something we would aspire to do at some point. I think all of us have that thought. For me, I've always aspired just to be a great engineer and to learn everything I can in my craft and to be the best at it. And in turn, it's brought me to the level I'm at. So I can't say I was directly shooting for it. It's kind of like an extra bonus.
That's awesome. So you just basically, your goal was to be the best engineer you could be, continue to develop your craft. And by doing that, you found your way to that partnership level. And just in general, maybe you can explain, I know every company is different, but at the level you're at this junior partner, is that like an ownership in the firm? Was that leadership or management? What does that entail?
It's a little bit of everything. It's most definitely ownership. It's also you're growing, of course, growing from a junior to a senior. The goal is to transition to run the whole place. So you're essentially at some point you have to do everything. So as a junior partner, I'm pretty much operating as a senior partner, but at a lower level. So management, go and chase work, marketing, training the staff, assisting with picking employees that come through the door, stuff like that. So pretty much everything.
Yeah. Wow. So when you achieved that level, that status of junior partner, how did you feel about that after your career and getting to that point? What was that milestone like for you?
It was huge. It's one of those things you don't know if you were ever obtain, whether you're going trying to go through partnership or build your own firm. It's not for certain. So to actually make it to that level when I wasn't really focused on it, it felt great, and it felt like it's a new beginning, but a great beginning, a great start off in my career.
That's awesome. And you said something earlier that was great in that you really just focused on being the best engineer that you could be. You didn't
Yes.
have a goal of partner. You got there because of what you did, which is awesome. So take me back to that a little bit. You get into your career, you have this goal of just becoming the best engineer you can be. What are some steps? What are some things that you did to develop your craft? How did you sharpen those skills? Just talk to us a little bit about your journey and how you did that.
Okay. Well, I guess the first thing is being an owner. I kind of view being an owner is you have to pretty much be good at everything. I know that's oversimplifying it, and that's not necessarily the case, but that's kind of how I look at it. And it started off, I guess, I worked very hard to hone my technical skills and diversify myself in the firm where I could do a lot. I operate on a wide range in civil engineering. I'm good at water resources. I'm good at site development, transportation. Uh, I'm good at wastewater treatment, water supply, and I operate officially across all those different disciplines. So some of it was just I was in the right place at the right time. Whereas there were a lot of different senior engineers. Uh, I was one of the new engineers. It wasn't many of us that was there that was at my level, and I got a lot of different types of projects, and I was turning those projects out. So it was convenient to give Tramone a project. When you need something done, give it to Tramone. So in that process, it grew me, and then of course you're always trying to straighten your technical side, and that's ongoing forever. But also with that, um, I started to break out and to do project management and start to try to learn my way of managing construction, managing the contractors, managing the projects. And it kind of progressed into managing the clients, actually conducting everything on my own. And then that transitioned into marketing, which is something I've always this is no secret in my firm. I told them I didn't care for marketing. I didn't want to do marketing. And I've always been like that. But over time, I would say over the last 5 years, I had to break that barrier. In civil engineering, if you want to raise the ownership, you got to market. Owners bring in the work. So it's an essential part of being an owner. So I had to break that barrier. And I think I've been doing very well and growing at a pretty good pace in it because it's not natural to me. I'm an introvert, as I think all civil engineers are. It's something that has been a challenge, but overall, I think I've pushed through it, and I'm at a point now where it's an afterthought. I'm I'm
Wow.
I'm I'm open to learn everything I can about it and to jump in every chance I get.
That's great. I'm glad to hear you say that because I would imagine that a lot of civil engineers listening to this feel the same way you do about marketing, about business development. It's not natural. We weren't taught it. We didn't take courses in it. So it's not something that you're going to be comfortable doing. But at the same time, I think a lot of us know that sometimes you need to do what's uncomfortable if you want to
Yes,
grow in your career. And you've
yes,
certainly, kind of made that clear here by, if you want to be a partner and you're out there listening, you're going to have to do some of the things that Tremont's talking about, which is the marketing, which is chasing down business. And the only way to do it a lot of times is to do it. I mean, there's really, you got to get out there and you got to start doing it. And so first of all, Tremont, just going back a little bit, I think there's couple of thought patterns here in terms of building technical expertise. I think sometimes you take one niche and you become a real expert in that niche and you develop it. But there are other times, and this was kind of my path in my career as well, like you, where you work at maybe a smaller to mid-sized firm and you're doing a lot of different types of engineering, site engineering, stormwater, water, wastewater, environmental. And it sounds to me like you've been able to get good at a lot of different aspects of civil engineering. And would you say that you did that by it sounded like you were getting pulled into projects and then learning the stuff?
Yeah, I like to, first I like to give credit to God. He put me in the right place at the right time, and I always wanted to be the nuts and bolts engineer. That's the kind I wanted to be. Didn't want to go in project management straight out of school. I felt if I did that, I wouldn't learn how to design, and I wanted to design. So I think some of it was my tenacity to learn, and also being in the right place and having all those projects come to me, and me spending the time at work and outside of work to learn. I spent a lot of time, and still do. I spent a lot of time reading engineering and studying things, and I think that's what helps me hold all of it that I was learning and taking in, and it helps me continue to maintain and juggle everything and learn. So I think a lot of it was my effort mixed with the timing and the projects I was getting, because you have to get the type of work to learn the work. And I was getting the work, and I think I was successful in turning the work around. So it just made me an obvious choice.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It definitely sounds like you're very committed to learning,
Yes.
digging in and doing what you have to do to learn the technical concepts. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think if you want to become a partner, an owner, a leader in a civil engineering firm, having the technical background, in my opinion, makes it easier, because if you want to lead a team, if you know what they're working on and you can talk to them about it and talk about the concepts, that makes it easier. If you want to sell civil engineering services, you need to understand what you're selling and how you can improve a site. And so, you know,
Yes.
all those things make sense to me. So let's switch gears here a little bit now. Let's talk about people. Dealing with people in civil engineering is critically important. We're working on teams, you're working with municipalities, you're chasing down work, you're doing marketing, maybe presenting to agencies and boards. So talk about your people skills and how you develop them and how you started really being able to work with people beyond the technical concepts.
Okay. That's a good question. Um, I guess it started out. I used to joke around when I was in the office. When I was out, a lot of when you're communicating and working, to me, a lot of it's just BSing around, and you talk about the work a little bit of the time. And I used to joke. I stopped watching sports in college, so I don't keep up with sports. In Mississippi, I'm in Mississippi. It's a big hunting place, and that was most of the conversation: sports and honey. As the filler. So I used to joke that I don't do those things, so it's very hard for me to kind of engage. But over time, I just relax and just start talking, like you and I are talking now. And I still don't know much about football. I still don't hunt, but it wasn't necessary. I'm a well-rounded person, and I can talk to people from many different walks of life. So I think that's suited me well. It was more for me. I just need to step out and do it. I once I started doing it and engaging, the more I engage with people, the more natural it becomes. The more it's like you said, it's just a conversation. And of course, people tend to work with people that they like. So as you develop your relationship with them, and maybe they give you a shot on a project, you use the project to show your technical skill and how strong you are in performing. And once hopefully once you've gotten them to like you, develop a relationship, and you have an opportunity to produce a good project, you have something you can build on and continue to grow, and
That's
maybe have
great.
repeat a repeat business and word of mouth from that customer as well.
That's great. So it was really just about having conversations with people,
Yes, yes,
just
just
talking. And
relaxing and just talking. At the end of the day, you're marketing, you're selling your company, but they have an idea of what you are and what you do. You're actually in front of them because they need an engineer. Maybe not you specifically, but they need an engineer. So at that point, it's how do I make them connect with me, um, and where I stand out differently from the other engineers who do the same thing that I do. So to me, it was just, I think I'm a very likable person when you subtract the engineering. So I just had to remember that and apply it.
Yeah,
So
no, that's great. I mean, listen, we do some training here on networking, and I try to tell people that people like to do business with people that, number one, are good at what they do, and number two, that they're comfortable with. And,
yes,
a lot of engineers are good at engineering, but you need to make people comfortable with you, like you said, outside of engineering, and get them comfortable with you kind of
yes,
as a person and conversing with them. So it's great to hear that. So another thing I wanted to ask you about was, again, thinking about becoming a partner in a company is, business, finance, like the business side of engineering. And so, we talked about, you developed your technical skills. You talked a little bit about how you started talking to people and building some of those people skills and relationship building skills. And you become a partner. And I would imagine too, you need to really start thinking about business side of engineering and finance and
yes,
stuff like that. So
yes.
talk about now how you had to start thinking about those concepts.
Well, once you do, as you step into the owner, when you're working, starting out, you're more sitting there and you're kind of your manager is directing and controlling what happens, and they're thinking about the billing and cash flow, stream of cash, and keeping work on your table. As you transition into the owner, you have to start about feeding yourself and others, providing work for you and others, trying to continue to grow where you have enough for your staff. You also, you have to think about what you're doing, and quite honestly, it's a business, so you have to think about cash flow, and you have to manage your projects in a way where you can stay billable, but at the same time, do everything you need to do. Some projects are not always immediately billable, but they need to be done. So there's some juggling going on between what you can bill for and what you can't, chasing work, creating a backlog. Uh, so you start to think on a much bigger level and more about everybody instead of just yourself.
And how do you start to learn those concepts? Is there training provided to you, or are you just digging into financials? I mean, obviously from the technical side, you said you were a learner and you dug into that stuff. Now, how do you deal with that when it comes to business?
Of course, as you become an owner, the the inner workings of the business have to begin to be divulged to you, and you have to start training to take that over. So there's a deliberate effort to bring me to a point where I'm a senior partner, and the company is an open book to me. uh, I can access anything I like, and I also, can request any training I want. I can go anywhere I want. Because it's a small firm, I wouldn't necessarily say that we have certain things in place or protocol, and it's because it's small. Everybody's very hands-on all the time anyway, um, and you're talking a lot and communicating. And I think with that kind of helps you get to where you need to be. But because I'm the way I am in my particular firm, I ask a lot of questions. So I'm going to learn regardless, but it's just because of who I am. But my firm is set up so, like I said, it's so hands-on. You got to have your eyes closed not to learn anything. It's just one of those places. It's not really big, where you got 200-300 people and you have a system and you have steps and everybody goes through the same channel. We do have a structure we try to uh, push them through, but it's a guide. It's not set in stone. It
No,
just depends on their skills and their strengths.
I mean, I think that's great. Listen, I think that there are benefits to working for small companies, benefits for working for big companies, but I do think one of the benefits of working for a smaller civil engineering firm, which I did myself for some time, is exactly what you say, is that you really get kind of thrown into everything because that's just the way it has to be, basically. And that really gives you the opportunities to learn all the different aspects of the business. And really what I like from this conversation, what I think a lot of our listeners will appreciate, is I can see a lot of civil engineers out there that have this idea of maybe becoming a partner, but have a lot of fears around the idea of, I like technical, I learn technical, I don't know about dealing with people, I don't know about project management, I don't know about business and finance. But kind of from the conversation that we're having here, you kind of were like that too. You know, you're
Yes.
really good at technical and you were a little bit leery about the other things.
Yes.
But you achieved that junior partner status. And it sounds like a big reason for that was because you were open to learning new
Yes.
things,
Yes.
even though maybe you were a little bit fearful of it, but you were open
Mhm.
to it and you kind of pushed through that fear and you took it on. And it seems like it's been helpful for you. You've been able to keep learning different and new things.
Yes. As you grow, I guess that's one of the things. It's always it's different levels you're going through, and you master one level and you arrive at the next level with a whole bunch of more challenges, and you just got to understand that it's an ever learning process, and once you conquer these challenges, you have more. But that's the way you rise through the ranks, is to continue to level up and to continue to master your challenges and learn at each level, where you grow at that level and you're comfortable at that level, and you grow to the next level just by default.
So, Tramone, you mentioned that you were doing some training today, and I know you do some training there. Talk to us about that a little bit. Like, how did you get into the training side of it? And I would imagine that doing the training is helpful for you developing some of your skill sets.
Um, well, it helps reinforce it, sometimes refresh. But the training is it just kind of go. Um, I'm one of the more senior people in the firm, first and foremost, and I've learned a lot. So it's I'm very it's appropriate for me to teach and train in the in our office based on our situation and our dynamic. It's not like I said, it's not anything protocol. It's we have projects, we have staff members, we want them to get involved in it, and the senior partner or the partner who has time or has this skill set, we jump in and we train. And since I'm kind of operate across a broad spectrum, I train quite a bit. So
That's great. So, you've gone through your career, you know, you're young still, you got a lot of ways to go, but you've accomplished a lot so far. You developed the technical skills, you know, your conversational skills have built, you achieved this junior partner level. What's next for Tramone? How do you approach your career now? Do you, in terms of where you want to go?
um, the goal is the same. Be the best engineer I can be. It's proven to be a great guide, and I'm going to stick with that. But thinking bigger, of course, I would love to grow the firm and say I did that, So to grow the firm, you know,
That's great.
and grow me. But I think I've said that. So
No, that's great. And what I really like about your approach, and you know, I've had the pleasure to interview, you know, hundreds of people through the podcast, and you know, goals comes up a lot. You know, the idea of having goals in your career. But I like that you have a really kind of simple overarching goal, which is to be the
yes,
best engineer I can be. Obviously, not necessarily an easy goal because there's a lot of work to be done to be the best engineer you can be, but it's simple and easy to state it and tell people like, listen, I want to be the best engineer I can be, and everything that I'm doing on a daily basis is focused around that.
yes,
And I feel like having that kind of North Star that you can move towards on a day-to-day basis is great. And as we've heard from you, if you can do that and move forward, that there are a lot of other potential successes that can come to you through that, even though they may not have been your primary goal.
the
And
doors open up, so to speak.
yeah, right. The doors open up, the opportunities come to you. And I like that approach a lot because I do feel that sometimes engineers have the goal of maybe becoming a partner or maybe, you know, doing something specific. And, you know, you lose sight of, you know, just really being a great engineer, which is, I think,
Yes.
what a lot of people, a lot of those other things come from that. So with that, we're going to pause for a second and then we're going to come back with Tramone and we're going to finish up by putting him on the civil engineering hot seat. All right, we're back with Tramone Smith from WGK down in Mississippi. Tramone, thanks so much so far. You've given us some great career advice, but now it's time for us to put you on the civil engineering hot seat. You ready to go?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So are there any specific rituals that you practice every day? For example, do you have a specific morning ritual or lunchtime routine or something that you do consistently on a daily basis that has contributed to your success?
Honestly, um, honestly, no necessarily. What I have found that I do, but it's not something that I set out to do. It's kind of started happening. I find my I found myself sitting around, and as long as I'm not interrupted, I can get wrapped up in a daze where I'm thinking about engineering and work and all the things around it. And before I know it, 2, 3 hours have passed. And I've found myself doing that more often than not. And I've found when I do go to work or I'm engaging, um, I'm actually, in a sense, meditating on what's to come and what's happening and what I'm doing. So when I'm in these situations, I've kind of already thought about it a lot, just from that happening. And that's just comes from me. I'll sit still and, I love what I do. And as you rise to an owner, you're pretty much always thinking about your work. You have to turn it off, but you're always thinking about it because there's so many different things that you have to oversee and manage. So indirectly, I found that has been very helpful, and I've probably been doing that now about a year and a half. And it's not a set time. It's just kind of I sit still too long, and 2, 3 hours can pass, as long as I'm not interrupted. And I guess that's a form of my meditation.
Wow. So it's like these pockets of like deep thought that you go through.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting, and you don't hear that a
Yeah.
lot these days with all the distractions that people get. So it's good that from time to time you can do that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Tramon, is there a book that has been helpful for you in your career, professional development that you might recommend to others? A book that stands out?
Um, Again, I have to say no. And the reason I would say that is because most of the stuff I read is just engineering generally. I read a lot all the time and everything pertaining to engineering. When I'm reading something that's or listening to an audiobook of something that I like, it's mostly something sci-fi. Uh, Almost listen like the Avengers movie in my ear.
Hmm.
So, but what I would say is, in staying with trying to be the best engineer I can be, read every engineering book you have.
Yeah.
You know, read them all.
So you read a lot of technical
Yes,
engineering
yes.
content.
And
Okay.
I read other worldly things, just like everybody else. But if I have a book in my hand, 95% out of the time, it's something related to engineering.
Well, I would imagine.
95% of the time.
I would imagine if your goal is to be the best engineer you can be, you're going to be reading a lot about engineering, right?
And I have a curiosity. When I'm curious about something, I don't like to wonder. It's nothing for me to pop open an engineering book on a Saturday night at 12:45 a.m. That's nothing for me. It's just I be curious. I want to know, or maybe I need to refresh my memory. Something on my mind. I'm up. I'm gonna grab the book. So most of the time, it's something related to civil engineering. It's not always technical. Sometimes it's just about the field, the direction, where it's going. The different people that are entering the workforce and stuff like that, just anything pertaining to engineering.
That's great. All right. So the next question here is if you think back on some of the managers that you've had through your career so far, and, not asking necessarily to name anyone, you don't have to, but just in general, if you think about your managers, what about your favorite managers or what made them great managers? Like, what are those characteristics that you've seen in really good engineering managers that you could share?
Okay. Well, I've had great, I have great, well, they're my partners now, but I've had great managers in engineering. But there's one manager who it was not, I wasn't an engineer because I put myself through school. I actually graduated age 27. So, but the manager that I worked for was at a poultry plant. And if I could remember his name, I would call his name, but I can't remember it. And what I liked about him was that he cared about how we felt, the employees. He went above and beyond his way to make sure we were happy, not a okay happy, but really happy. And he did what he had to do to accommodate us. And in turn, we didn't want to fail him. We didn't want to disappoint him. So he didn't have to be there for his machine to run well. And I learned that from him. Like, if you treat your people, if they feel good about coming to work and they love their environment and they really want to be there, you can go home and go to bed. They got it, you know. So it's treat your staff right and focus on them. You need a team to perform. Without your team, you can't do anything. So they're important.
That's
And
great.
that's what I learned from that manager, because I was one of the employees that was looking to him, and I was getting a firsthand experience from it. So that's kind of what I learned. Treat the people that are around you, treat them well, create an environment where they can grow, where they can learn. You know, make it a place where they're excited to come to work every day.
That's awesome. And I would imagine that he did that by having a lot of conversations with you.
Yes. He was very friendly, very down to earth. He talked to all of us the same. You couldn't tell he was the manager and you were the staff. But we respected his authority, his position, and we respected his authority. But he was real down to earth person, and I just wouldn't say being down to earth. I've had a lot of down to earth managers. He had actions that matched what he was, him being down to earth.
That's great. All right, Tramone, I've got one final question for you. We call it the civil engineering career elevator advice question. So if you were to get into an elevator with a civil engineer and you only had about 30 to 40 seconds with him or her, and you had to give them some career advice in that short period of time, what would your advice be?
Learn everything in your craft, in your wheelhouse, master everything you can, and do not miss an opportunity to learn. And that's what I would say if I had 40 seconds. Put all the information in your head that you can, pertaining to what you do, that you can use.
That's great. All right, Tramone Smith, junior partner, WGK, thank you so much for spending some time with us here on the Civil Engineering Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Civil Engineering Podcast on YouTube, produced by the Engineering Management Institute. We're always looking for new ways to help engineers become effective managers and leaders. You can view all of our content on our website at engineeringmanagementinstitute.org, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel here for our weekly videos. Until next time, please continue to engineer your own success.